As Jared mentioned, we are starting a brand new series today called The Way and the World. The Way and the World. The larger version of that is that we're talking about the way of Jesus for the sake of the world. The way of Jesus for the sake of the world. I honestly believe to the core of my being that one of the primary reasons that we remain on earth and continue to journey with God after beginning a relationship with Him, so after becoming a Christian, after what we call, getting saved, etc., is so that we will actually learn to follow the way of Jesus, and that one of the key motives behind that will be for the sake of the world. I do not believe that it is possible for me to grow in my love for God and in receiving His love for me, unconditionally, undeservedly, and not be moved to love the world. You're not going to like everything. In fact, there'll be many times where you strongly disagree. You may even have an enemy in the traditional sense of the word. But when your life is being transformed by God, by the love of God, by the grace of God, the more that I realize how undeservedly kind and patient and gracious He is to me, the more that something starts to take place on the inside where you can even love your enemy, where you can bless those who curse you, where you can bless those who persecute you. These are Jesus' words. These are not just nice self-help goals for us to have where we're trying to be nicer people, sweeter people, prettier people, like kinder people, more good people. I was going to say gooder people. Because I don't like using the word better in this case. Because we want to be good, right? It's not about that. We can't make ourselves love the world, sacrifice for the world, serve others, persevere with others. To some extent you can, but we cannot, from the core of our being, genuinely, truly love people the way Jesus did without growing in a relationship with Him. And the implication of that is that I'm then going to actually follow Him. I'm going to follow Jesus. And one of the outcomes, one of the fruit of that is that I'm actually going to care about those around me. Where you live, where you are at work, where you are at school, your family, even though you wish you might have had a different one, or maybe you're wishing that you had a different spouse, maybe you're wishing you had a different parent. I'm saying wherever you are, it's possible that God can do such a work in your heart that you can genuinely be light and be salt wherever you are. Romans 12 verse 1 is quite a well-known passage for those of you that are familiar with the New Testament, written by Paul the Apostle to a large group of Christians, one of the most significant books in the Bible theologically. And he's just spent 11 chapters unpacking what it means to actually have a relationship with God. Like, it's dense, it's rich with theology. And trying to explain what salvation is and what it means to be saved by grace and to walk in those good works and to actually care about others and to want to share the message. Like, he explains so much. And then in what we now call chapter 12, he then says, in light of all of that, so therefore, because of everything else that he's just described, he says, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy. So the mercy I've just described to you, the mercy that I've just riffed on. I mean, he's spoken about people who've never heard about God but have had general revelation. Then he's talking about the Jews who kind of, had the Torah and the special access, and yet they still didn't live the way, to people that were what they call Gentiles who were completely outside the family of God, and yet God has reached out. He's saying, in light of this mercy, like everybody, the fact that God loves everybody, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. As a living sacrifice. That means an ongoing commitment. The problem with a living sacrifice is that it can jump off the altar. So we have to keep choosing to stay that way, to stay on that path. And I don't know about you, there are days where I'm like, I don't want this altar, thank you very much. I mean, I love you, but I don't like this, and I want to jump off. So we're actually, we're invited, we're urged. He, in the New Living Translation, uses the word, I urge you. But in view of His kindness, in view of His mercy, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Now, in this context, the word body is really referring to your whole life. He's like, you don't worship God with your mouth on a Sunday for 2 songs or 3 songs or 4 songs or 5 songs, depending on what church you go to. He's like, you don't just worship God when you maybe read a brief psalm and repeat it to someone. He's like, no, you worship God with your whole life. With your whole life. I think it's Eugene Peterson in his message, the message paraphrase, where he says, in your coming and your going, like your everyday life. Then in verse 2, the first part of verse 2, he goes on to say, do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. That word transform is the same word that we get the English word metamorphosis from, right? Where an insect or something would go from the process of appearing to be one thing and actually going through a process of becoming something else. If we are following Jesus, if we are following the way, we are being transformed. But I want you to notice the 2 parts that are underlined here. We're either conforming to the world, or we're being transformed by the renewing of our minds. But either way, we're being formed. You're being formed, and I'm being formed. In fact, Dallas Willard, in his book, Renovation of the Heart, said that terrorists as well as saints are the outcome of spiritual formation. We are being formed. It's not a question of if, it's a question of how. So in what direction? And am I allowing the world to form me? Or am I being formed by the renewing of my mind? So as I'm allowing the truths of God to constantly redirect, shape, and form me into the person that He's called me to be. Guys, we're being formed. If you look back over the last week, how you responded to opportunities at work or school, how you responded to perhaps opportunities for conflict at home, work, or school, or on the bus, or in traffic. If you think of how you spent your money over the last week, if you think of how you've spent your free time, your disposable time, if you think of what you did on average to end your day every day of the last week and to start your day every day this past week, if you start considering those things, you'll start realizing that actually that looks a lot like what it was the week before, and the week before, and the week before. Because we're being formed. We all have habits. Habits form the heart. So whatever those habits are, for good or bad, so whatever you did last night, chances are, I know there's no guarantee, but chances are that was probably on average what you do most Saturday nights. How you woke up feeling this morning is probably how you wake up feeling most Sunday mornings. Our habits form our hearts, and so whether we're intentional or unintentional about it, we are being formed. He goes on in the second part of verse 2 to say, then you will learn to know God's will for you, which is good and pleasing and perfect. In light of God's mercy, I offer my body as a living sacrifice. That is my true worship. Then verse 2, he says that we're either being conformed to the world or transformed by the renewing of our minds. And as we are allowing our minds to be renewed, we will then learn what God's will is. And the reality is God has a will for our lives. It is good. It is pleasing. It is perfect. And I can't help but wonder if some of us have settled for way less than what God actually offers. I've got no problem with you settling less than what the marketers offer or what the world offers. But don't settle less for less than what God offers. God actually has a good, pleasing, and perfect will for your life. I believe that to follow God and to walk with Him imperfectly, but trying to do it consistently, I believe that it will result in human flourishing. I believe that it will result, that there will be an overflow of love and joy and peace. I believe that however long it takes, I think that you can grow and develop into being a non-anxious presence. So no matter what's happening around you, no matter what the storms are, no matter what the circumstances are, you are grounded, you are anchored in God. His will is good and pleasing and perfect. But the only way for us to discover it and to walk in it is to follow the way of Jesus. So, it kind of leads us to a fairly important question. Guys, on the slides, please forgive me. I want you to go quite a bit further down to where I'm asking you the question of whether or not you actually want the life of Jesus. Now, you may very likely have a quick answer in your mind. It may be the correct answer. Likely, it's the correct answer in theory. But I want to help you think just a little bit deeper for a moment. Because I don't know about you, I want the life that some other people have. I just don't want to live like they live in order to have that life. So again, my friend Ezekiel, he's a runner, right? Done the comrades a couple of times. I know I look like I could do the comrades, but I would die, okay? No matter how much he inspires me, no matter how much he casts a vision, no matter how much he tells me how much better his life is, how much weight he's lost, how much better it feels because of nutrition and the discipline that you have to engage in because of getting extra rest and sleep and just being able to cope with stress and just life being better. No matter how much I agree with that and buy into that and want that, I can't just do that. I would have to live a certain way to experience that life that I want. If I want to be a marathon runner, well, then I'm going to have to live the life of a marathon runner, which I don't really want to live. Thank you very much. You see, we may want to experience the life of Jesus, but then we need to be willing to follow the lifestyle of Jesus. We will need to be willing to practice the lifestyle of Jesus. Jesus was committed to a certain way of life, which then allowed him. There was a way that helped him to actually love the world. There was a way that helped him to discern what to say yes to, what to say no to. He wasn't just saying yes so that he wouldn't offend people, and he wasn't just saying no to people he didn't care about. No, he was secure enough, his identity was stable enough that he was able to discern what to say yes to, what to say no to. He knew when to pull away from people, and he knew when to engage and to sacrifice and to give of himself. If I want the love of Jesus, the peace of Jesus, the gentleness of Jesus, the wisdom, the strength, the depth of Jesus, then I need to follow the lifestyle of Jesus. That includes healthy, appropriate margin. That includes spending time with God. That includes a commitment to community, whether you like it or not, whether you're still in the honeymoon phase or you're way past the honeymoon phase and you realize that everybody's imperfect and got junk and baggage and nonsense to deal with, and you persevere through that and you grow in that anyway. There is a way that Jesus lived, and I believe that he invites us to this life. I came across this comment from John Mark Comer recently, and I've been wrestling over it for a few weeks. I think I agree with it. I like it. Whether it's absolutely correct or not, I tend to agree and I like it. He says that morality is commanded, but maturity is invited. Morality in the Bible, to the life of a follower of Jesus, morality is commanded, but maturity is invited. So there are certain things that you have to do. If you're going to have a relationship with God, you can't go around killing people. You can't go around, dealing drugs. You can't go around, finding ways to commit fraud and to undercut the tax man and to lie. Okay, so there are certain things that are black and white. But then there is a level of human flourishing. There is a level of love and joy and peace and patience and kindness and goodness and gentleness and faithfulness that we are invited to. And I think sometimes we confuse the two. And so I think we're almost waiting for him to command me to be patient. And he's like, no, I'm inviting you towards a life of patience. Or I think we can make this mistake, and please bear with me. I don't mean any disrespect when I'm saying this. I think that without us even realizing it, sometimes it's possible for Christians to be a little bit superstitious, where we think, well, if I just pray the right prayer, then I'm going to experience the right result. If I read my Bible every morning, well, then it's like that'll kind of like magically turn me into the person that I need to be. Now, that's a big part of it, but it's not this magical cure. No, the Bible is there to help train me. It's there to help direct me. It's there to help form me. Prayer is a way for me to relate to God and be present with Him and find security in Him and identity in Him and joy in Him and where He gives me peace regardless of what's going on around me. It's not some superstitious magical cure. He keeps inviting us to a life, to a way of life. So, in other words, I can believe that I should love my wife and be a good dad to my kids. I can even want to be that. And I can think, well, okay, to be a godly husband, a godly father, a godly man, okay, as long as I spend like a good 15 minutes, 30 minutes, hour, fill in the blank, every morning with God, okay, then surely I'm going to just be this. But if I'm going to work an extra 4 hours every day, if I'm going to get less sleep than my body needs, and I'm going to reject the limit that God has placed on my life, if I'm going to commit to more projects than what I can reasonably accomplish, if I'm going to eat junk and fill my body with toxins before I go to bed every night, or if I'm going to consume my mind, because the only way for me to escape and switch my mind off from some of the stresses I'm dealing with is to either have a little bit too much wine, or to watch a little bit too much garbage, or to read, or to scroll through just a little bit more social media than what is good for my soul. Guys, it doesn't matter that I had a great choir. You can be praying in tongues naked on the roof. You're not going to be a godly husband or father or friend. Guys, I hope you're catching what I'm trying to share. I'm telling you that we're in danger of being superstitious. So here's the big idea of the day. I want us to commit to training, not trying. To training, not trying. If I want to be a marathon runner, I'm going to have to adjust my lifestyle. I'm going to have to look at the amount of rest I need. I'm going to have to look at the kind of nutrition I'm going to have to persevere with and commit to. I'm going to have to actually exercise. Guys, as Christians, some of us, not all of us, those of us that have been around for a long time, some of us don't need more food, we need more exercise. Some of us know enough to do damage. Some of us know enough to last several people a lifetime. It's not about more. I'm not saying that's for everybody. I'm saying I know that for the most part, my problem is not knowledge. My problem is obedience. For the most part, it's not that so let's make this practical and human. It's not that I am convinced that eating lots of sugar is good for me. I just like it. And as much as I don't want to, I do. And you can see the results. So I can, now, by the way, and next week I'm going to get way more practical. I do believe that there are spiritual practices, which I've started to engage in, like spiritual disciplines, like fasting, which I think is one of the only. So if you're struggling with a fleshly appetite, food, lust, then you do the opposite. Okay, I'm going to starve that human fleshly appetite. I'm getting ahead of myself. Next week, we're going to get very practical with the nuts and bolts. The point I'm trying to make, though, is that it's not a knowledge issue. It's not like what? That's not good for me? I know it's not good for me. I know I need sleep. I know what feeds my soul as far as media and content goes and what doesn't. Guys, for many of us, knowledge is not the problem. Training is the problem. Actually forming practices of the way of Jesus that leads to the life of Jesus for the sake of the world. Paul, again, writing in a different part of the New Testament, says in 1 Corinthians 9, verse 25, all athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that'll fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. Athletes are disciplined in their training. We're called to be disciplined for an eternal prize. I can't tell you how much it humbles me to think of the amount of discipline that athletes, any athlete, think of any competition, but where it goes kind of like to the highest level, whether it's the Olympics, whether it's athletics, swimming, soccer, rugby. The amount of discipline that a person puts in for a lifetime up until that point, in the hope that there'll be one in arguably probably several million, or in some cases hundreds of millions, or when it comes to the Olympics, one in, how many people are we now? 6.5 billion? How big is the world? Anyway. And that one person that succeeds, it may be a popular enough event that they get enough. So you may be Usain Bolt. You may be Lewis Hamilton. I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I've started actually getting into F1. But for the most part, you wouldn't have a clue who most of these people are. I know who Michael Phelps is. Many of you would too. Olympic swimmer. I think most decorated Olympian of all time. You're going to struggle to name another swimmer, another Olympic swimmer. Sure, we may know a couple of South Africans, but you don't know who came second or third in all of Michael Phelps' races. Yet there's this determination. There's this discipline. There's this training. And I'm not taking any of that away. Please don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm saying I respect that, and then it really humbles me that I'm not willing to put in a fraction of that effort to what actually lasts for eternity. Where I don't just hope to have a good relationship with my kids, where I don't just hope to have a good relationship with my wife, where I don't just hope to have friends that'll be there when I'm struggling, when I'm in my darkest moments, that'll have my back. No. I need to be disciplined in training. You see, trying is different. Trying is me saying, I want to be able to run a marathon. I'm going to put my most comfy shoes on tomorrow morning, and I'm going to go run a marathon. How many of you think I could go and run a marathon tomorrow? The two guys that we pay every month, and my friend over here. There's no one thing I can run a marathon. Yeah, it's like, because I fail. You're probably right, okay? How many of you think that with the right training, so in other words, the difference is, okay, tomorrow morning I put my best, most comfy shorts on, I put my tackies on, and I head out and I'm running 42 Ks. Because I'm going to try. Right? None of you seem terribly confident that I'm going to make it. But let me ask you this, in all sincerity, how many of you think that with the right training, over the right amount of time, with the right amount of consistency and discipline and coaching, that I could eventually run a marathon? I'm pretty confident that with the right training, I could run a marathon. With the right training, I don't want to do this because it's very cold, but with the right training, I could swim to Robben Island. I mean that sincerely. But you see, I'm not training for cold water swimming. If I tried, I would cry within 30 seconds and I'd be running back out to sea. But people that train their bodies, that get used to pushing through that pain and discomfort of swimming in cold, open water, guys, you can train for a godly marriage. You can train for being a patient, present, a non-anxious presence at work and school. You can train in being someone that is honorable in a dishonorable society. You can train yourself to stop adding to the vitriol that exists on social media. You can train yourself to pray for those who curse you, to bless those who harm you. We can train ourselves to forgive when it's actually unforgivable. We can train ourselves to find peace and joy and hope in God. Stop trying. Let's train. Let's commit to the way of Jesus for the sake of the world. There is a way. I'm so convinced that there is a way. You can experience the life of Jesus if you will be willing, and if I will be willing, to apply ourselves to the lifestyle of Jesus. It burdens me. It burdens me how many people. So, in the last 24 years that I've been doing what I do full time, I have arguably seen thousands of people come and go. And that's no shame or condemnation. I'm saying that's a source of burden. It disturbs, in other words, if there's one thing that I can do with my life, if there's one thing that I could succeed at, is God, please help me to help people to persevere through the discouragements, the disillusionment, the false advertising, and to push through that to where it's actually better than they ever thought it could be. So I'm saying of the thousands of people, guys, if I even just think of the pastors in our group of churches that I've been in for the last 24 years, I mean, I think I'm being kind if I were to imagine that maybe half of them are still around, maybe a quarter. Statistically speaking, people that started in the ministry, in full-time ministry, at the age that I did, 9 out of 10 will not finish the ministry. I have to imagine that one of the most significant reasons for that is just flat-out discouragement and disillusionment. Because you're trying, you're declaring, you think, and I'm saying, no, there is a way. If we're just going to leave it all ethereal, if we're just going to try and convince people that if you just pray the right prayer and just make sure you read the Bible every day, everything's going to work out. Guys, it's not less than that. So don't throw out the Bible and pray, please, for crying out loud. No. It's not less than that, but it's so much more than that. We are called to follow Jesus with our whole lives. There is a way to live out the will of God. I remember so clearly where I was sitting, I guess 13, I don't know, maybe 10, 11 years ago. When I was wrestling over this question with God of whether or not He wanted us to adopt our oldest daughter. So we'd met Micheline through a home here in the area. She started coming to us for weekends, and then school holidays, and the relationship developed over, I don't know, I guess about 2 years or so. And then this thing started to really just constantly wrestle inside of me. God is doing, and every time I think about it, I just felt like God was saying Jason, you know the answer. And I can remember where I was the day. We were actually on holiday, I think it was in December. We were staying at a friend's house in Amanas. I can remember where I was sitting outside on the stoop, where I felt like God kind of said to me, Jason, stop asking the question. You don't need to know you already know my will. The question is, will you change the way that you live so that you can do my will? So in our case, look, I know you all think that ministry, you're balling it financially. Not really. Okay, so there was quite a bit of faith involved, and anyway, the bottom line is that I knew, and it wasn't. There was no condemnation. There was no pressure. You see, some of us wait for God to pressure us, to make us do something. God, I'll fast if you make me fast. God, I'll give if you make me give. And I think sometimes we expect of God what is actually true of the devil. The devil will try and possess you and make you do something. God doesn't do that. He invites us. Morality is commanded. Maturity is invited. And so it's the weirdest thing. I didn't feel any pressure. I just felt clarity. Jason, you know my will. Will you live the way that will enable my will to be achieved? I don't have to pray about whether or not I need to stay faithful to my wife. I don't need to pray about whether or not I need to be a present father. I need to make sure that I'm committing to living the way. One of the biggest reasons that just in this season, and this might change at some stage in the future, I don't know. I'm just trying to give you some very practical, personal examples of things that I'm wrestling over. So I've been faced with the opportunity to do a PhD, to study further. It'll take 4 years. It takes time and effort. And honestly, there are two echoing burdens that to me right now, at this stage of my life, I feel like that would not be a good idea. Even though I can see things that would be of benefit. One is how present I need to be with my family. So when I say present, I don't just mean physically. Your kids know when you're there but no one's home. Okay? So again, if I'm looking at the amount of stress, and secondly, in terms of ministry, so this church and some of the other national responsibilities that I have, I've had to say, okay, God, am I going to be able to live the way that you want me to live in order to achieve your will? Like I know that if this is part of your will, then it's not going to affect what I know to be part of your will. And I don't know that I could live this way right now, adding this thing to to my load. So I want to encourage you to be careful, because sometimes we'll take on another opportunity because it's simply an opportunity. Maybe you allow your kids to commit to 3 different sports because, well, like it's opportunities. And guys, you have limits. I have limits. I can want a healthy family. I can want kids that are healthy and balanced and rounded and disciplined with their education and healthy with their sports. But if I'm gonna keep taking on one more thing after another, I'm not gonna be able to live the way. You can't watch every series that is recommended to you. You can't keep up with everybody on social media. You can't carry the weight of the world news day in and day out and be a person of love and joy and peace. Be a non-anxious presence. Guys, that stuff does violence to our souls if we don't recognize the way. Guys, we are called to be disciplined with our practices, with the things we do, because the things we do something to us. Our habits form our hearts. And so I want to encourage you. This is your homework. This is your assignment for the week. Is to review and renew. Review and renew. I want you to review your habits. Again, don't overburden yourself. Don't go into loads of I especially want you to think about your disposable time. So forget about the stuff that you have to do. I want you to think about when you actually have a choice. I want you to think about especially how you end your day and start your day, because I feel like that does something to our souls. In fact, my understanding is that in Hebrew culture, the day starts the night before. So I've been trying to change how much garbage I expose my mind to the night before, and then expect to be able to deliver myself of it with a quiet time in the morning and then have a wonderful day. Do you ever feel like you're just playing catch up? It's like you get, you fill yourself with toxin, and then you try and quickly detox and then have a good day. And then toxin and then quickly detox. No. We can, guys, Sabbath, we'll get into this more in the future. But again, that's not, you see, I think that even the term weekend is misleading. Do you know that Adam's first day on earth was a day of rest? It was a gift. He hadn't earned it. It wasn't the end of his week, it was the beginning of his week. So maybe we need to look at maybe we need to stop looking at how we end our week and look at how we are beginning the next week. So instead of seeing a Saturday and a Sunday, if that's how your life works, as the end of the week, maybe you need to see Friday as the end of your week. And then thank God, by His grace, for the gift of Sabbath, for the gift of rest, whatever your Sabbath days, whether it's a Saturday, Sunday, whatever the case is. And see it, instead of being the weekend, see it as the start of the week, the new week. God, thank you that I don't have to wait until I've finished everything. No, I can rest. I can find peace in you. This might sound like such an exaggeration, and maybe it is. But don't tell anyone. But I think that families, even just learning to Sabbath in a life-giving way, where we cease, where we stop work, worrying, and wanting, and where we allow stopping to turn into resting, and resting to turn into delighting, and delighting to turn into gratitude, and gratitude to turn into worship. So it's not about what we can't do, it's about what we get to receive as a gift. I think that single practice alone could change more families than an island holiday, a trip to Disneyland, an extra hour in the day, or anything else that we look to for some magical cure. Guys, I'm saying there are practices. Please don't miss the rest of the series. Please don't miss the rest of this year. Seriously, guys, this isn't for today. This isn't for this month. I want us to catch something, that there is a way to do life that leads to life, and to life to those around us. Where even if people are saying, I'm not sure about your God, but there's something compelling about you. There's a peace, there's a presence, there's an anchoring, there's just something that then actually whets their appetite to want to find out more about God. But guys, it's not going to be because we believe the right things. It starts with that. Again, it's not less than that. I'm saying it only begins with that. So here's my question to you. Do you want the life of Jesus? Now that you know that there's a price attached. Not a price of earning. Remember, I've mentioned this before. Dallas Willard said that grace is opposed to earning, not effort. It will take effort. Again, that's like that's a lie. That there's going to be no, there's effort. But it's not an effort towards earning. It's an effort towards training. Come on, stand with me. I want to pray for you in a moment. I don't have time to show you this clip, but maybe you can go and find it. There's a great series that has been made recently called The Chosen. Well, when I say recently, I think last year sometime. In my opinion, it's the best series. I mean, it's not a movie, it's a series. They're going to be making 7 seasons so far. They've made 2. They're releasing the 4th episode of season 2 next week. It's all free. It's on YouTube or the Chosen app. But I love how real they make Jesus. They don't make him look like some weird Nordic, albino. They don't make him look like he's constipated. They don't make him look like he's really got no joy in him. No, like they're real. They joke around. It's down to earth. I love it. It is so real, and I think so. In my opinion, it's probably the closest thing to an accurate reflection of who Jesus is. I love how they show the disciples and how dysfunctional they are, and some of the conflict and stuff that they're working through. It's just beautiful, guys. It's just beautiful. My 16-year-old daughter, don't tell her I said this, who's grown up in church, is like something's coming alive. She's like, I just want to hug him. It's changed. Like she's asked, like, can we watch this on a Sunday? Because it's changing the way she wants to go to school the next day. Like it's like stirring something up, because I think it's actually giving people an idea, a more accurate idea of like his realness. But there's this one part that I wanted to show where John sends Philip. John was Jesus' cousin, and he was now in prison. And those of you that have read the book of John, which is written by a different John, you might have noticed that John like redirected the attention from himself to Jesus. And even his disciples saying, no, he's the one, like go follow him. But even then, I mean, it's interesting to me that John wasn't convinced. Different story. But in this particular moment, Philip, who's one of John's disciples, and he's come and found Jesus and his disciples, they're traveling around. He has this moment with Jesus where he says, I'm Philip, and Jesus is like, no, I recognize you from the baptism and all the rest. And then Philip says to him, that John has sent me with a message, like kind of on my behalf. Just a short message, a 2-word. Jesus saying, no, I've also got a question to ask you. It's also a short one. And the way they portray it, I think, is so powerful. But again, it helps if you've watched the rest of the series, where we're just very gently, like Jesus says, follow me. And as he's saying, follow me, Philip doesn't even let him finish saying those 2 words, follow me. He just interrupts with, I will. Follow me, I will. And I feel like this is the invitation that is being offered to you right now. And I think it's offered to us again every morning, at the end of every day. Jesus doesn't just invite us to put our hand up or to make a quick decision. He invites us to follow him. I want you to allow that invitation to sink into your mind and into your heart. In fact, can I ask you just to close your eyes for a moment? This might be weird for some people, so please bear with me. Give me grace. But can I ask you just to try, with your eyes closed, just try and imagine Jesus standing in front of you. Because I do believe he's present with us. I just think that because we can't see into the spirit realm, we think that what we see is more real than what we don't see. And yet, I think that Jesus is more real in your life than the person standing next to you. So can you just try it? Just try and picture, imagine Jesus standing in front of you. I want you to imagine him actually having a gentle smile on his face. This might really mess with your head, but I want you to think beyond the truth that he loves you and actually consider the possibility that he even likes you. That He's not waiting for you to get your act together. That He's not waiting for you to stop all your sin. That He's not waiting for you to deal with all your baggage. That He's not waiting for you to be perfect. Is it possible that He doesn't only love you more than you can imagine, but that He actually likes the real you? Not the you that you present to others, but the real you. And as you're imagining Him standing in front of you with a gentle smile on His face, without it being pressurized, it's not domineering. It is so gentle, but so compelling, where He simply issues a 2-word invitation. Follow me. I feel like the correct answer to that question for some people standing here today, I don't say this lightly, my sense is that there are people here that if you can see the real Jesus, if you will hear the real invitation, and if you will sincerely say, whatever the cost, my answer is, I will. I am convinced that your life will change. I'm not convinced that your life will be easy. I'm not convinced that you'll have everything you want. I'm not convinced that Jesus will tick every box that you imagine. I'm saying your life will change. And in the end, it'll be better than you ever could have imagined. Follow me. Follow me. Follow me. It's an invitation. What will you say? Father, I pray that by your Holy Spirit, you would apply what you're wanting to sink into our hearts in the way that only you can. Lord, I fully acknowledge that my words cannot change a single thing. It can maybe change behavior temporarily. Lord, we cannot change our own hearts. We can only position ourselves. So we can put an effort in to training ourselves, to being present, to positioning ourselves to let you do what only you can do in our hearts. Father, I pray against shame and condemnation. I pray against discouragement and disillusionment. I pray for a vision of the real life that is on offer from Jesus. I pray for a vision that'll override some of the discomfort, some of the costs, some of the pain, some of the sacrifices, some of the relationships that we might need to separate ourselves from, some of the ways that we do work that you might challenge us to change, some of the way that we interact with people or hold on to grudges, some of the ways that we might deal with our money that eventually you invite us to change, some of the ways that we view and steward our gifts that you will invite us to surrender to you, God, that no matter what the price, Lord, that we would be led by a vision of the life that Jesus died for and purchased with his blood. Help us to hear you constantly inviting us to follow you. And help us to constantly say, I will. I will. God, when we fail, help us to recognize your invitation and get back up again. God, when we drift away and allow ourselves to become distracted, help us to hear you warmly inviting us to come back. God, help us not to see the narrow path as something that's narrow-minded in a negative way. Help us to see it as the path that leads to life. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Amen. Guys, I know that we've gone over time, but I just want to tell you that I honestly think that there's some people that if you will hear God and respond to him and allow him to continue doing what I think he's doing in you, I'm just saying we have no idea. I do not believe that we can fully imagine the life that God actually has on offer. to us. And so as you go into the week, please do just do that little bit of homework. Just you don't have to even replace it or change it. Just try and be mindful of our habits, of our current practices. Next week, we're going to get way more practical based on our personality, season of life, what we're struggling with, how to actually put health, as though a doctor is prescribing medication, or as though a physiotherapist or someone is actually prescribing exercises. Okay, we're going to get really practical. So please don't miss out. Have a wonderful Mother's Day and a great week. Grace and peace. We'll see you next weekend.